Hi everyone, we're with Roger and Kim Earnheart in their home. They've invited us in and we are going to just kind of have a little chat with them about their journey together and how they've made some adjustments in their life in regards to how they honor God with their money. And it kind of fits into our sermon series on money, the light side, the dark side, and then how money can be used to promote God's kingdom. So let's get into a few questions. Roger, we have all the men in the congregation are glued on you right now. And there's really only one pertinent question that is on every one of their minds. How in the world did you marry up so high?
Just luck.
Oh my gosh.
Well, everybody gets lucky once in a while.
I just want to share from all those men to you that when they see you, you are living hope for them that they can do that too. Okay. The first kind of question I want to ask is, everyone has to learn how to manage money together when they get married. And that is obviously pretty stressful for a lot of people. And what money can do is money can compete against God for our hearts. And we have to prioritize that. So tell us a little bit about your journey when you first were married and your money situation and where it went and how you made those decisions.
Okay. Early in our marriage, it was always a struggle, but we always tried. We were very disciplined in terms of the way we budgeted, and we really followed a budget early in our marriage. And I was real anal about making sure we did it and we followed it. But there was never always enough money at the end of the month to do what we want, So it was always we're always making compromises. So. There never seemed to be enough to go around fully. But I think early in our marriage, we were probably more disciplined than we got to later in our marriage. There was still never enough to go around.
So how did you prioritize God in that? And where did he come in the midst of the bills at?
Well, early in our marriage, I think probably God was a little lower priority than he is today. And so that's part of it. But we gave. We always, since we started going to church or after we got married, we always were giving, but we never seemed to have enough.
A small percentage.
To tithe. So we were always giving, and we were always making excuses that we were going to give more next time. We're going to pledge so much this time, but yeah, God, it's not a tithe, but it's...
We waited till the end of the month as well.
Yeah.
We didn't do it the first of the month. We always did it at the end of the month.
So you became out of what you had left.
Yes.
We did, and it wasn't biblical. We knew it wasn't biblical, but, I guess, we were doing good if we were half tithing, I'll be honest with you. And that was, the more that we were in our journey with God, the more that I was convicted that was not good, but at the same token, it was a challenge to try to get out of it. Mm-hmm. So, every month we seemed to always run short and things like that. And then of course we moved to Florida where everything's a lot more expensive. And then things really got tighter. So, again, the excuses continued to flow.
So was there a time when your combined incomes you kind of got over that hurdle of not knowing if you could pay every bill every month, and then you felt like maybe you had a little cushion or excess? Did that ever happen?
Well, to be honest, it happened earlier in our marriage than it did in the middle. After we got to Florida, the kids got into activities and, the college savings and this and that. It just seems like you never... can't get out of it. So to be honest, we got into some debt when we were here in Florida that we really, we would dig ourselves out a little bit at the end of the, bonus time come around. We'd dig ourselves a little bit out of it, but every year it seemed like we'd get a little further in debt, more credit card debt, et cetera, et cetera. So it became a real challenge for me, and it really weighed heavy on my heart. But the problem that we had was Kim and I were sort of on different pages. Kim was wanting to prioritize money this way, and I was wanting to prioritize money this way, and God was over here somewhere. So it was a challenge, to be honest with you.
So you would say money was getting in between your heart and God's, and not just that, but between your two hearts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Money was always a source of, I don't know, not argument, but it was always a challenge with us, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. definitely when we moved here.
Mhm.
So what changed that? Did you have like an aha moment? Was it like overnight, or was it a process that got you together on the same page?
It was a real God thing that happened. And I'm going to
Definitely.
let Kim tell about that story.
Definitely a God thing, because we had just done a study, a church-wide study, fireproof marriage, and accompanying that series, actually on the side, was a book, A Love Dare, if you've ever watched the movie. And then and it was 40 days of some challenges and some things to do. And one of the challenges was to figure out what really bothered your spouse and what could you do to make it better. And I knew that finances was a real concern. And I was like, okay, I need to do something here. And that Sunday was an announcement for Financial Peace University that they were teaching at our church.
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. And we had followed some of his principles before, and we knew all the concepts, but we had obviously got ourselves over our heads. So I asked him that Sunday, I said, do you want to take that class? And he was pretty shocked. And it was pretty cool,
The
actually.
funny thing about that is I had been trying to get Kim to listen to Dave Ramsey for years. And I'd turn the program on, and it's like, you really ought to listen to this. You really ought to listen to this. And she wasn't hearing me.
No, I needed
So it
to
was
hear
definitely a God thing.
So why weren't you interested in hearing it?
Because I knew it would take a lot of sacrifice and a lot of work, and I just wasn't at that place. But by doing the Love Dare, you realize how much you need to do things differently and do things for each other. So it came around, and we took the class, and at that time it was a 12-week class. It's only like 9 now, but it was a 12-week class. And we made some real sacrifices, and we got out of debt and started, and then that was the other thing is, you got to figure out how to get a church in there. And so we were getting that back in there. It wasn't tithing, but we were getting it in there. And before, it was at the beginning of the month, we made sure that we got it in there. So we did that, and we got out of debt. And then, do you want to tell about the next challenge?
And so we had started paying our pledge monthly, automatic, which was good. And it was in the budget, first of the month, and we weren't missing payments. But, again, we got out of all the debt, and we really I really had felt convicted that we needed to tithe. But the problem is when you look at the budget, and you look at all the things we want to spend money on, it wasn't there. So then it was another God thing, and Matt's sermon was a couple years ago. He preached on doing the tithe challenge, and he asked everyone if they wanted to take the tithe challenge and to do that and see how God could bless you if you did that. So I came home and said, we need to do this. We need to try this.
We both talked about it.
And we both talked about it, and we wanted to do it. But I'll be honest, I didn't think there was any way we could afford to do it because, we knew where every penny was going, and we were very disciplined about where we were spending all our money. But we just decided that we would just start to tithe and change the budget and moved everything to the tithe. And
well, Matt said if it didn't work, he'd give us our money back.
Yeah.
He said if you can't make it work, then you don't have to do it.
Wow.
So I was like, okay,
But
let's do it. But we knew we needed to.
The funny thing about that was it really wasn't painful at all. And,
Not one bit.
and we really did not miss it. And we've been tithing ever since. And it's just been a real blessing to us. So, I felt, for years I felt guilty that we really weren't following the Bible to do what the Bible asked of us. And so I really went out on faith, and it's just been a real blessing for us.
It comes at the beginning of the month, and we haven't had a problem since, right?
No, it's been good.
No.
There are people sitting out there right now watching you guys share your story. For those who are struggling with the exact same things you talked about, not being on the same page, not knowing if there's enough money, what would you say to encourage them to make some first steps in honoring God with their money?
Well, the first thing you got to do is both people have got to be on the same page, and it's so hard because one of the most common things people fight about is money, and one of the most things, couples argue about is money. So, we found that financial peace is a great way to do it because that got us on the same page. I wanted to do certain things with our money. Kim wanted to do certain things with her money, and we couldn't agree. And so by taking financial peace, it really encourages you to have a meeting every month or every week to go through your budget, goes through your finances, and make sure that both parties agree on everything you're spending. And number one is to get out of debt. And the best way we found to do it was through the Dave Ramsey program, because it's a great way to meet other people in your similar situation. And there is a small group format, and it's just a great way to do it. So for us, that would be my recommendation. And then once you are able to get control of your money from the budgeting process, then I think it's just a matter of taking that next step. And that next step is to take that leap of faith. And you need to tithe. I believe you need to tithe, and different people will look at tithing different ways, but I would recommend that you budget for that, and we've been blessed by doing that.
So once you started to get on the same page and you agreed that Dave Ramsey's program was a good one, and there's a lot of them out there that people can use, what were some of, because so now you've got this, you're on the same page, and now maybe some new challenges come up that you didn't foresee, or maybe it wasn't as tough as you thought it was, or maybe a combination of that. For someone who's ready to do that, what would you share with them and how to overcome some of the challenges in the middle of that transition?
Well, the first thing, I guess the biggest challenge is that you're making sacrifices. You can't get out of debt if you don't make sacrifices and you don't prioritize differently. So we had to both agree on making a lot of sacrifices. That meant not eating out as much. That meant not going shopping as much. That meant doing, changing the way that we spend our money. And initially, it was all about trying to defer that income into the snowball effect in terms of eliminating your debt, smallest debt to largest debt. So I think the first thing you got to do is you got to have faith to do it. You both parties, both husband and wife, need to agree to make the commitment, and then the next step is you got to make a sacrifice. And so we had to learn how to sacrifice short term to do the things that we needed to do.
Kim, was that hard for you to make some of those sacrifices?
Not as hard as I thought it would be, because we were on the same page. And I just, I'm pretty driven if I have a goal. And I really wanted that security that I've learned, that safety and security was really important. So I was willing to, sometimes I was even more willing to do it than him. He'd want to go out to eat, and I'd say, no, can't do that. So it took a little while. But yeah, that was probably the biggest sacrifice.
So once we get on the same page and we feel like we're honoring God on the front end with our money and our resources, God starts to honor that with us. It's like there's so many if-then verses in the Bible. If you, then God. And this, I think it's one of them. God, He wants to see that we're serious about it. And when we are, then that opens so many doors that God can bless us personally. So I'd like to ask you about that. How has God blessed you guys and your family since you've been honoring Him with your tithes?
Well, one of the things I do is I actually, because he's the breadwinner and I work part-time, and when I get paid, I take 10% out of the bank and I put it in one of my Dave Ramsey envelopes, and it's for giving away. Because I was finding that, when they were doing collections for different things, that money, I never really had that extra money. When they were collecting diapers or collecting the gift cards for Thanksgiving, I just never had that available. So by putting it in an envelope, and sometimes I would just build it up, and I'd have a lot of money in there, and then I could just go and do. And I gave money for some of the youth to go to camp, and We do, I love when I'm in a restaurant to give like 100% tip, and love doing that. And it's half the time it's terrible service, but I still do it because they obviously need something to pick them up, or I can't think of what else I've given to, but it's so fun. I love just pulling out that envelope. Hey, you want me to get it out today? You know, let's go. Let's help this thing or do that thing. And it's a really blessing. And I've helped, the neighborhood has Friends of Fishhawk had an organization, and they were always, collecting to help people for different things. And I was always able to chip in to help them, whatever happened. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Some of the local ministries too, like Miss Janine.
Yeah.
We've been able to give to some of the things that she's needed.
Her projector that she just needed.
And that's
had
been
broken.
It's been fun to do. So
It's kind of neat as I listened to your story, and one of the things you said very early on was there wasn't enough to pay the bills, and you didn't even know how you were going to do that. And now, by honoring God first, there's an abundance, more than you need, and money you can give away. The more you give, the more you get. So it's kind of cool to hear that,
Absolutely.
that transition in your story.
absolutely.
When we honor God with our tithes and our offerings, that allows God to open some doors in our life, and He pours His blessing out on us personally. So can you share with me maybe stories about your life, or your kids, your marriage, some ways that God has blessed you guys, and you know that it is because you've honored Him with your money?
Yeah, it's funny because we went into the Dave Ramsey thinking it's just all about the money, and we didn't realize that we had things in our marriage that needed to get fixed, and it was really because of the money that needed to get fixed first for our marriage to get better. So that led to us getting on the same page. Our marriage improved, and then that also led to us really looking at it from a biblical perspective in terms of what God wants us to do, and then we were able to, honor God by being better stewards.
Well, ironically enough, by doing the 12-week class with Financial Peace, the next thing I know, I think the week after we finished the class, the Landrys were starting a 6-week Bible study, small group study, one of the first ones at the church, and it was 6 weeks, and I thought, well, I just did 12 weeks, I can do 6 weeks, why not? We had always done Sunday school, but we had never done a night or another class together. We'd always done Sunday school together. But I asked him, I said, you want to do this? Let's do this for 6 weeks. That was 3.5 years ago.
Oh.
And
Still waiting for week 6.
yeah, we're still waiting. So that's it fell into place.
It's been a blessing to you guys. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Blessing. Yeah, so we thought it was about money, and then we realized that there were so many other blessings along the way, paying for weddings and getting in a small group family, doing life together with a small group that we, care deeply about, and of course, it also helped our marriage. So, what we thought was just a very basic thing turned out to be a whole lot more, and God revealed all that to us as we went along.
So now that you're pretty far along in your journey, and it sounds like you're pretty solid, and you've prioritized God first and most, and honoring Him that way. What would you share with people sitting here this morning, no matter where they are in their walk, whether it's Dave Ramsey or different, how would you encourage them to take the next steps?
Well, I'd say number one, I'd say pray about it. I'd say both people need to sit down in prayer and think about what's God directing you to do. And secondly, I think that I would say be prepared. You should at least give a little bit more. And some people may not be in a position to tithe today, but I would strongly encourage that you give a little bit more and build a plan to get you there. But I would also strongly encourage that you step out on faith and tithe, because it's been a blessing to us. And we're kind of new to the tithing process. It's only been about maybe 3 years that we've been tithing, but it's been a huge blessing to us, and we would never consider not doing that in the future. And then the last thing is I would also recommend that you give electronically, because that's also
At the beginning of the month.
it's an
At the
easy
beginning.
it's an easy way to do it.
It should come first.
Yep.
Yep.
should always
so
come
to
first.
just do it electronically.
Ironically enough, when you do it first, we had enough. If you did it at the end, it wasn't enough. So you always make the time and the commitment for what's important. So if you do that first, and like you said, electronically, and then it's in there, you know? But I think one of our churches did it like by stair step. So at least, you know, if you're giving 2% now, you know, give 4% by next year, or 6% the next year, and then have a real plan. Don't just say, I'll see what I can do. You know, just say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. I mean, it changed our lives.
Yep.
So Roger and Kim, thank you so much for letting us come into your home for a little bit, and you know, probably took a bit of courage to share your personal story and to get up on camera. Kim, thanks for doing that.
You're welcome. Better on
Good
camera.
job. You did a good job.
Not in person.
You did good. But I just want to say thank you on our behalf, on behalf of everybody listening. I pray that your story will impact someone else to take those next steps too. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.